All right, here we go. We're live. So today is gonna be an amazing workshop. I'm gonna discuss maybe my favorite topic. It's the topic that allowed me to get out of poverty. This is it, guys, this is it. Once you figure this out, once you figure out how this works in the brain, once you figure out how to achieve maximum focus in your life, and to avoid distractions, and you figure out how to rewire your brain, and that's what I'm gonna teach you today, everything becomes easy. I got my black book here. I'm gonna tell you what the hell this is very soon. I got my brain, so I'm gonna show you where different parts are in the brain, the stuff I'm talking about. And just to give you a little taste, just a little taste, okay? We're gonna talk about a lot of cool stuff. I'm gonna tell you why I love rats so much, my entire extremely crazy story of rats at SC, and I'll tell you what that is. Oh, by the way, Masterclass 1 to 3. Okay, if you're new to the channel, you don't know who I am, go watch these masterclasses first. I recorded 3 parts. The first part was a general brain rewiring protocol, exactly what to do if you want to rewire your brain to achieve any goals. Part 2 was all about money, how to maximize your financial freedom, how to make the right decisions in order to make the maximum amount of money, to gain wealth and get out of poverty, get out of being broke. I talked about how I escaped poverty. I was $250,000 in debt. I'm gonna talk a little bit about that today, but go watch that. And then part 3 is about how to get into a beautiful relationship. I talk about my pickup journey, my trip to Vegas, and how I met all these pickup artists and billionaires and this crazy sex master in Ukraine. All of that is in part 3. So part 1 to 3 of the masterclass, that's a must. You need to go watch that first. I'm not gonna assume you've already seen that, because today I'm gonna review a little bit and I'm gonna give you some, different parts of the brain, what they do in the circuitry. I'm gonna give you some of that review today. For sure. But if you haven't watched that, I would leave this video, go to those videos, watch those parts 1, 2, and 3 of the masterclass, and then come back to this, and you will gain so much more. However, if you're already into this and you want to watch this and then go watch that later, that's fine too, but I would suggest you watch that. Now, how to rewire your brain. That's the topic of today's workshop. Rewiring the brain is my favorite topic. My first love was neuroscience. I did my PhD in neuroscience from McGill University, one of the top universities in the world. And I'm going to talk about McGill today and all the crazy discoveries we've made over the last 80 years or so. And it's just it's mind-boggling stuff, the types of scientists and what we've done to just break amazing ground in the field of neuroscience. Some rat experiments, of course, and the reason I draw this rat, let me tell you the type of where I've come from in this world, okay? When I was in Florida, I did not have enough money to afford rent. So I made a deal with a gym there. I made a deal with the boss of the gym, and I said, if you let me sleep at the gym, then I will work for you for free. And I will do sales calls, and so, I wanted to learn how to get fit. And that was one of my mentors there. And SC stands for Strength Camp. And at Strength Camp, there were rats around when I was sleeping. They would wake me up. I set rat traps everywhere where, rats would get killed. And I have this crazy dark side. I'm so sorry to say this, but because I did my rat experiments and I was decapitating rats during my master's degree at McGill, when this rat got caught in the trap, the mouse or the rat, whatever it was in the gym at the time, I would set up like 10 or 20 traps all over my room and other rooms in the gym, and then I would hear this, and as the rat got trapped, I would wait a little bit. The rat gets some glue and it kind of sort of dies almost, it becomes a bit anesthetized, you could say, maybe. Then I would take that rat, and I'm so sorry to say this, but I took scissors and I decapitated the rat I was in such a dark place. I was so depressed. I was so lonely. I was so fucking broke. At that time, I was $250,000 in debt. And I would literally cut the rat's neck and then I would throw that rat by the railroad track right outside the gym. This rats are very, very precious to me because when I think of rats, or mice even, it allows me to understand, first of all, where I got started in neuroscience because I was recording from rats. I was taking an electrode, putting it in the brain and recording from memory parts of the brain in the rat. And of course, strength camp and all that rat stuff. But today's, and I'll get into those stories later, but today's masterclass is about focus, okay? I truly believe, and this pertains to my life, this pertains to the life of my mentors, and it pertains to the life of my students. Once you can achieve focus, and if focus is not what you think it is, I'm going to tell you exactly what focus is, what happens in the brain when it comes to focus, but once you can achieve focus, you can get maximum wealth in your life. Right? A lot of you who are watching this may not be financially free yet. You may be worried about paying the next bill, or your children's education, or God forbid some medical emergency happens and you need a lot of money for surgery. You're not ready for that. And so I understand how that feels. I told you what happened with me with the rats. And look, when I was $250,000 in debt, I was very careless with money. And all that money stuff, it's in part 2. You can go watch that. But I just want to tell you that I've come from a life of just some shit focus. Okay, not focused at all. I'm going to tell you this very soon, what this is and how to test. It's a test that you can do to see how strong this connection is in your brain. But again, just want to reiterate. First of all, please, I draw my black book here. You need to get a black book too. Okay, this black book basically contains all the secrets that I've learned over the last 12 years. I've been writing in this for 12 years. Ever since the time of Evil Stifler, and that's in part 3 if you want to go read about, want to watch who the fuck Evil Stifler is. But get yourself a black book, buy this from somewhere, any place. It doesn't even have to be black, but if it's black, it's cool. And start writing all of these notes in there. Okay, my clients and my students have kept my notes, that all the notes that I gave them, they've kept it for like 8 years now, 8 to 10 years. They still have those notes and they follow those notes. So you need to have a black book and keep notes. All right, now let's do this test real quick. I'm going to get back to this test very quickly, but let me give you some background about this test first, okay? So there's a part of the brain called the prefrontal cortex, and we're going to get into that very soon, but I'll just write it down over here, the PFC, okay? It's this part here of the brain, okay? It's not just this dot, there's more of it, but I'm just drawing the dot of where the main part is, right here, the prefrontal cortex. So the prefrontal cortex, and I'm talking about what exactly the prefrontal cortex does in a future slide, but this test that I'm about to give you is gonna see how strong is this connection right here, this connection, right? There's a connection from the prefrontal cortex to this area, and I'll tell you what this area is soon. And then there's a connection from this area to the prefrontal cortex, okay? And this connection right here, right? This connection is what you're testing. Now, this is not a perfect test. There's many other tests for this, but this will give you an idea. So what I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna pull up a word, okay? Now, don't worry about what the word says. I want you to read the word. Of course, I want you to read the word. But I want you to tell me the color of the word. Not what the word says, but the marker that I use to write the text. Let's do an example just so you understand. Okay? Say it out loud when I do this to you. I want you to say it out loud. Okay? Whatever comes to mind. I'll do it again. Now, if you said blue because you read blue, you're wrong, because the right answer is green, right? Because the marker that I used to write it was green. Okay, let's do another example. And I'm going to do this a little bit later too, because I want you to understand what the hell this is and what's going on in your brain when you do this. Okay. Again. Ready? Now, if you said yellow, you're wrong, because the correct answer is blue, right? This is written in blue. The marker that I used is blue. So if you said yellow, you're wrong. Now, yellow, the writing yellow is a distraction. And what you're trying to do is focus on the actual color, which is blue here, okay? Don't worry if this is not clear or if this is confusing. I'm going to get to all this very, very soon, and I'm going to make it very clear for you. And we're going to do this test very soon again, okay? So let me put this away, and let's get back to this. All right. Now, this right here is very, very important, okay? This right here. And I keep reiterating this. I say it all the time. I'm like, people make fun of me for saying this, but it all starts in the brain. It all starts in the brain. Any problem that you have poverty, you're stuck, you have mental blocks, there's a virus in your brain that doesn't allow you to take the right decisions, the right judgments. You mistrust different things that you should trust, or you don't want to take risks, or you're scared. Whatever the problem is, it all starts in the brain. So whenever you encounter a problem in life, always think, what is my brain doing? How can I rewire my brain to accomplish my goals? So this is something that you have to always keep in mind. Okay, now, when I say right here, goals, okay? This workshop that I'm doing with you today is not for just some random guy on the street, okay? This workshop is for people who they really want to achieve something big in life. And what you're going to learn about dopamine, I'm going to get into dopamine very soon. Dopamine only works. You're only going to be able to avoid distractions and focus in your life if you have big goals. This is something that I've learned, and a future slide, I'm going to tell you the guy who can focus the most in the world. I know this guy. I'll tell you who he is and how he's related to me. But I've never seen anyone else focus as much as this guy. And it's like a robotic, crazy focus. And I was able to download that focus into my brain through the lessons he gave me. And I'm going to tell you all of that today. But right now, in your black book that you have, or the notebook that you have in front of you, again, purchase a black book. Start writing everything inside, and get a lock so no one else can break this and open this, because it's your secret, right? So what I want you to write as we do this workshop is, what is your big goal? Because you're not going to be able to focus or avoid any distractions unless you have big goals. Why is that? Okay, it's all because of this circuit. Okay, now this is the brain, obviously, right? You see the entire brain. The visual system is here. Here's the cerebellum, the brain stem, right? You got the prefrontal cortex, the temporal lobe. All of this stuff is here. Now, as I mentioned before, everything starts in the brain, right? You want to see something, it's the visual cortex, right? Coordination, balance, cerebellum, right? Your planning and focus, prefrontal cortex right here, right? Your hearing is in the temporal lobe, right? You open the brain, right? And I'm going to talk a little bit about the hippocampus soon, a little bit future slide, but here's the hippocampus, right? So and here's the amygdala, right? How you feel fear. There's all this stuff in the brain, okay? And what we are working on today, the main focus of today's workshop is this connection right here. That's why I did this test with you, right? That's why I did this test, but I'm going to continue it soon. It's all about this connection, right? And this connection right now has been hacked. There's a virus in your brain when it comes to this connection. Now, what do I mean by that? Think about it, right? As you're writing your goal, what's the obstacle towards your goal, right? Day to day, how does your mind get cluttered, right? So for example, right here in the prefrontal cortex, right? This area right here, there's something called working memory, right? Working memory. It's like right now, as I'm doing this presentation, my working memory contains what I'm about to say next and what I just said, right? All the information that I've learned during my PhD, my master's degree, the last 12 years of my transformation, all my trip to Vegas, meeting the billionaires, meeting the crazy sex master, meeting the guy I'm going to tell you about today, about the focus guy, who's none of those people. It's someone different, which maybe you don't know yet. But all of that stuff is working memory. But sometimes what happens is things come in working memory. And when those things come in, you are unable to focus because you get distracted, right? So I want you to write down, even as you're watching this video here, you're gonna get distracted, right? The phone might ring, you might get a notification, you may have to go to the bathroom, or you may have some Netflix show coming up, whatever that is, right? Whatever that is in your life, that distraction is going to keep you away from your full focus and achieving your goals. So first, again, you need to have a big goal, not some shitty goal, but a real big goal. Because dopamine only works with big goals, or it won't work. You're going to be hijacked. You're going to be taken over. And I'm going to talk about why very soon. It's coming up in this slide. Okay, so I told you about the prefrontal cortex, which is right here, right? It's located right here in the brain. This pink part, this is the prefrontal cortex, okay? Now, let's talk about this area. I love this area, man. This is my favorite area, by the way. I like this even more than prefrontal cortex. I fucking love this area. This area, and I'm gonna tell you the name of it, and I want you to remember the name of it, because it's gonna come up, okay? It is the RAS. And it stands for the Reticular Activating System, RAS. I'm going to be talking about RAS today. I talked about it in part 3 of the masterclass as well, went very much in detail. Today, I'm not going to go crazy detail because we're looking at focus and other things that I haven't covered before. So you need to understand the circuit. Now, the way this circuit works is the Reticular Activating System, the RAS, sends information to the prefrontal cortex, and the information, the reason I have these pluses here, I'm going to tell you very soon why the pluses are here. But in a nutshell, it is getting this area excited. The RAS gets the prefrontal cortex excited. That's why the plus, okay? And the prefrontal cortex goes here. There's a feedback connection. And the reason I have this negative here is because this is a negative connection, which means it is trying to inhibit the reticular activating system. So reticular activating system sends excitatory input, and then prefrontal cortex sends inhibitory to the RAS. Sorry about these words. I know they're big words, but I'm going to use them more and more, and it's going to make it more and more clear what this inhibit, excite stuff is. Don't worry. I promise you're going to understand all this perfectly, okay? Top down, bottom up. Very important for you to learn this. Okay. In the history of neuroscience and the history of psychology, right? Like, okay, let's start with psychology. When psychology started, there was no neuroscience because we could not go inside the brain. We could not understand an animal in terms of single cells or network of neurons or the entire circuit of a brain, or we couldn't do all that. We couldn't record from the inside of the neuron nor the scalp of the brain. Now we can do that. So in psychology, what we used to do is sort of like a top-down approach, right? So for example, oh, this animal is behaving this way. Let's do something to the animal and make it behave a different way. We don't know what the hell is going on inside the brain, but we can do a top-down approach to change the behavior of the animal. Then neuroscience was invented, and the first department to coin the term neuroscience was MIT. My colleagues at MIT did that, and it also makes me very proud. And actually I was at MIT a couple of months ago, and I met a couple of people, and like, it's a great institute. And these guys, they were able to coin this topic, neuroscience. It's literally started a department called neuroscience at MIT, which is super cool stuff. Okay, so bottom up is when you record from a very very small unit, right? So for example, you record from a single cell, right? And you're recording those neurons, you're recording the spikes, right? Brr, brr, brr. You're recording that activity, and then you see what is going on in the higher parts of the brain, right? So for example, you're looking at me, right? You're looking at my face. The lower parts of your brain, right? The sensory parts of your brain, they don't know my face. They cannot detect my face. What are they detecting? They're detecting lines, corners, edges, right? Forms, shapes, right? That's what they're detecting. And then that information gets hierarchically transferred to higher and higher parts of the brain. And then eventually, the fusiform face area, FFA, recognizes my face, right? But it's building up. It's a hierarchy. And I studied this during my PhD. That was the title of my PhD thesis starts with hierarchical. So it's fascinating stuff how we can recognize things, and that's the bottom-up approach, right? You sense things and then you perceive. Now the top-down approach is what we're talking about today, right? This is very, very important. The top-down approach is the feedback signals to the senses that will choose what will be let in. Of course, the senses are already choosing, right? Like this right here, the RAS, the reticular activating system, it's not letting everything in. Like as you're watching me right now, you're not seeing every single little unit on this table or on that plant. You're not seeing any of that. You're seeing my face. So your RAS is inhibiting, canceling all the other shit that doesn't matter. So you can focus on my face and on the content that I'm showing you today. Okay? So that's how it works. Now the top down, from the prefrontal cortex to the reticular activating system, that is whatever the RAS is sending to the PFC is choosing what's important now. Because all of that is not important. The RAS is a bit dumb, right? Of course, it's important for arousal and consciousness, fine. But the prefrontal cortex governs what you actually focus on. What is in your working memory, what you pay attention to. And this is big. And I'm telling you why. Especially if you want to make a lot of money. You want to get out of debt. What you pay attention to, what you focus on is everything. Because in today's society, all the different companies out there who are trying to get your attention, you're basically giving them your money because you're giving them your attention. And I'm going to make sure that that does not happen from today onwards. I promise you that. We're going to rewire your brain, my friend. Okay, so this is it. This is what I want to cover so far. And now let me tell you what you will learn today. Why the hell are you here, right? You could be stuck in life. You may be broke. You may be lonely, have no relationship, right? You want a girlfriend, a wife. You may have an unhealthy body and you want to become jacked. Whatever that reason is, today's focus will be about wealth. I really think this is important because in my life, when I focused on one goal, I got all the other goals automatically, right? So if you, let's say your focus is you want to become wealthy and you want to, of course, keep that wealth, not give the wealth away like those lottery winners. You know, they win the lottery, they make $1 million or $20 million and then they lose it in a year. Not like those people. You want to keep the wealth that you accumulate. In order for you to keep that wealth, you're going to have to rewire your brain in such a way that you make the right decisions. Okay? So if you're here for that reason, if you want to have that one goal, I mean, of course, your goal could be you want to have an amazing relationship. That's also great. When I started my life, my one goal, not my life, but when I started my transformation 12 years ago after I finished my PhD, I had one goal: get a hot wife, whatever the fuck it takes. But in order for me to get there, I also had to become wealthy, because I want to keep the wife. I want to like not have fights because of money, right? I got really healthy and jacked, got a six-pack, became very, very healthy and very confident with my body. Why? Because that was necessary to get to that big goal. And it's not just get a hot wife, like some physically attractive trophy wife. No, no, no. Hot wife means beautiful wife, intelligent wife, with emotion and care and love, who can teach me how to love myself. That's the type of wife I got. And I'm very grateful to God that this happened. So whatever your goal is, most guys that I've been coaching recently, their goal is to make money, to become wealthy. And that's great. Because if you want to get wealth and then maintain that wealth, automatically you're going to have to do things in life. And as you rewire your brain, you're automatically going to attract the woman. And you're going to automatically become healthy. Those things are going to happen just like they happened for me. Okay, so try to have one goal and you go after that goal. Now, for me, as I was going towards the goal of getting a beautiful wife that cares about me and loves me, I met the billionaires that rewired my brain for wealth. Right? I downloaded that information in my brain, those lessons in my brain. I met the sex masters who taught me how to have a very, very deep connection with the opposite sex. Right? So I downloaded that into my brain. But I was on the journey of one goal, and automatically the other goals got downloaded and I accomplished all of them. So that's very important. Now, what are we going to learn? What Uncle Sam really wants. Now, I covered a little bit of this in part 2, but this is hilarious. So in America, we have this term Uncle Sam. Uncle Sam represents sort of the American government, the CIA, the IRS, something like that. We call it Uncle Sam. There's an entire story. I don't want to get into that. But I'm going to explain to you what Uncle Sam really wants, right? You might have noticed this is Uncle Sam. He's like, we want you. I want you. He points like that. But what does he really want? And it's not the Uncle Sam of the government. It's the Uncle Sam in your brain. It's the Uncle Sam in society. It's the Uncle Sam of your internal thoughts. What does that Uncle Sam really want from you? Okay? Should you multitask? Right? People text and they're calling and they're studying and then they're responding to some comment, or they're eating and they're watching Netflix. Like, all of that is happening at the same time. Is that a good idea? And really, I'm going to give you the fucking answer, man. Like, the reality of multitasking. Okay, is it good for the brain? Can the brain even do it? Okay, I'm going to talk about Dr. Gloria Mark's research here. I'm going to talk about task switching. You know, when you're like you're immersed in a task and then you get a ding notification, a distraction, right? An interference. And then you attend to that and then you come back and you try to work again, right? I know what's going on. And let me tell you something fascinating about studying in music. A lot of you, when you were in school, or if you're still in school, while you're studying, you listen to music. Now, the reason that happens, I'm going to give you a little secret here. The reason that happens, the reason you listen to music when you're studying, or even when you're at the gym, you listen to music, it's because you want to stay. Any guesses? Why do you think that happens? Why would you not just do that thing and not listen to music at the same time? Okay, I'll tell you. It's because you want to stay alert. The brain needs to stay alert. And the mechanism of staying alert, you need to have a certain amount of information in the working memory of your brain in order to stay aroused, in order to stay alert. And the task that you're doing is not cool enough. It's not interesting enough. It's boring. So you need music in the background, etc., etc. So when you're doing a task that you're fully focused on, that you're fully immersed in, you're not going to need music. In fact, music is going to bother you. But this is something very interesting. I'll talk about Gloria Mark's research later, cognitive interference, where it lies in the brain. I'll talk about what this term is, how to resist temptation and delay gratification. This is huge. The concept of reward discounting and how it can make you a lot of money. If you understand reward discounting in the brain, I'll explain exactly what this is. Such a sexy thing. It's a term of neuroeconomics. There's this field of neuroeconomics, behavioral finance, right? And reward discounting, how it happens in the brain through dopamine. You're going to learn, and then that will open you up to more and more wealth. The actual problem of focus and making decisions, it's not what you think it is, right? Focus, like you might, if I ask you, well, why do you lack focus? Oh, because the thing I'm focusing on, I'm not focused on it. That ain't it, man. You're going to learn the reality, how to make the right decisions. The problem of neural inhibition, especially when it comes to love and relationships. I'll talk about that as well. This is a big, big, big topic, man. Neural inhibition. If you understand how that works in the brain and you understand the fucking power of your brain, it's done. You get your dream life, buddy. You get your dream life. Controlling working memory for making money. Working memory, right? Working memory is like, you remember back in the day when we didn't have storage on our phone and we basically remembered everyone's phone. You knew your phone number, your mom's phone number, your brother's phone number, your best friend's phone number, your wife's phone number, your kid's phone number. You knew all that. Now we don't know anyone's phone number, maybe not even our own. Working memory, okay? I mean, obviously, working memory, obviously the phone numbers aren't stored in working memory. The phone numbers are stored in long-term memory. That's a different type of memory. But when someone asks you, hey, what's this person's number? Nothing comes to your working memory. Like, it's blank. So you grab your phone, you look at the number, and now it's in your working memory, and you dial, right? So that's what has happened to our, and of course, ADHD, OCD. We'll talk a little bit about that as well and how that works. And working memory, right? I drew a little thing here. If you are able to maximize and optimize your working memory, you're going to be amazing at presentations. For those of you who are in sales, you do PowerPoint at work or at school, or you need to like present in front of a bunch of people on stage, or you make videos, whatever that is, the presentation skill that a person has, if your working memory is strong, man, you're gold. Okay, so we're going to talk about how to control your working memory for money, hacking the dopamine circuit. This is big, okay? Why? Because learning happens through dopamine. Dopamine is the learning neurotransmitter. So if you don't hack your own dopamine circuit, someone else will hack it. And they will steal your attention and they will make the money you should make. In fact, you will lose money because of that. So we're going to figure out how to hack our own dopamine circuit. Of course, I talked about that in part 1 of the masterclass, very much in detail. If you want a precursor to that, go there, okay? And again, why you should do big things. And I'm going to also prove to you that you are a fucking rat. I used to be a rat, and I used to have a rat's brain. And what that means will be very clear very soon. Stay tuned. We're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to have a lot of fun here. Okay. So why do you suffer so much, right? What is your greatest challenge in life? This is what we want to counter first. Because look, in order for you to solve the problem, in order for you to actually rewire your brain and download the lessons that I'm giving you, that my mentors downloaded into my brain, if you want to get that download, you have to first remove the virus. Remove the virus first. You're not even normal yet. You're stuck, you're blocked. Nothing is going to go in. As I'm speaking, my goal is to take the virus out so you can actually learn the good stuff and the secrets actually go in and get past the reticular activating system. Because right now, if you're really stuck, I mean, the guys who are really stuck, they're probably now doing something else. They're not watching this video anymore. But If you're still watching, that means your reticular activating system let me in. You're not like completely, there's some hope for you still, right? And I do want to cover this concept of hope, right? Hope is so damn important, man. Like really try to understand. The belief and the hope that I got from my mentors, from the masters that I met, the experts that I met, when I understood the lessons they were giving me, and when the hope got generated into my brain and I started believing in myself, that yes, I can attain this. If they can do it, I can do it. I became unstoppable. You need to generate that hope right now during this workshop. And I'm praying that you get that hope, my friend. Okay? So, why do you suffer so much? All right. You have to learn why you're suffering, the reality of why you're suffering, what's going on inside the brain. And once you figure that out, you can remove that virus. Okay? That's what we're doing here. Now, first, the basics. Pick a goal. I talked about that earlier, and I told you to write this down, right? Write down the goal. And again, picking a goal is very important. Why is that? Because the prefrontal cortex, right here, right? Let me just write it down. Prefrontal cortex. Okay? The prefrontal cortex is goal-oriented. It's called goal-directed approach, right? The top-down approach, it's all about goals. If you don't have goals in your working memory, there's no hope. If you're just going through life, being pulled by the distractions, and all of this cognitive interference is happening in your brain, and you have no direction, no aim, it's over. You gotta have a goal. Pick one for now. Okay? Start for now. The first thing we're going to talk about, okay, so prefrontal cortex, and of course you know this, reticular activating system. Okay? So, this is the circuit. In this slide, the only thing we're discussing is the connection from the RAS, this is RAS here, right? This is here, right? This area right here, to the prefrontal cortex, right? This is PFC, right? This is PFC, okay? We're discussing this connection here, the exciting connection, right? It's called the excitatory connection, right? This feed-forward connection, it's also called. And the reason, again, I put pluses here is because it is a positive connection. It is an exciting connection, okay? Now, what does that mean? The RAS, okay, let me give you some acronyms so you really understand what's going on. So, reticular activating system, the way I want you to remember that is relevant, okay, arousal, and sense. Okay? Relevance, arousal, and sense. The reticular activating system is sensing what's going on in the environment. So it's getting all these signals, and it's letting in what it thinks is relevant. Now, it may not be relevant. Okay, like for example, if you're, let's say you're married. This is a typical example I always give. Let's say you're married. You're going down the street and you see a girl. Now, you have two choices, right? The reticular activating system let it in, right? That's a stage 1 filter, right? Level 1 filter, you could say. Say like level 1 filter, right? It let it in. However, as we'll talk in a future slide, the prefrontal cortex will decide, do you want to look? Now, if you're single and you're doing, picking up girls like we used to do in Vegas. I picked up girls for many, many years. Lots of cold approach, day game, night game, all that shit. Like 10 years I did that, okay? Until I met my wife. I was doing that, right? And anytime I saw a girl, the RAS let it in, and then my prefrontal cortex said, fucking go. So I probably approached 10,000 girls in my life, right? And the download that I got from Evil Stifler, which is in part 3, allowed me to do it easily. Like in everyday life, like at the grocery store, when I was shopping, or when I was at the pharmacy getting something, I saw a girl, I approached her. Like there was no time waste, there was no distraction. It was all a part of my life. And even if those girls had boyfriends and stuff, I befriended them and added them in my social circle, and I had a bunch of friends that I was hanging out with, right? So this is what I want you: relevant, arousal, sense, right? The RAS is sending a bunch of stuff to the PFC. So what is it sending? Visual information, auditory information, what you're hearing, right? So for example, if you're working hard on your project, you hear a ding. Now, in evolution, when a ding happened, right, like an unknown surprise sound, the RAS had to let it in, because it could be a predator who's going to kill you, or it could be prey who you will kill. So a sudden sound out of just all of the sudden, you have to attend to it. So the RAS is going to let that in, right? Smell. Actually, the sense of smell is a different, I'm not going to talk about that, because the olfactory sense, the sense of smell, is the only sense that doesn't really have a filter. You just smell it because it's too important, right? If something was poisonous and you smelt it, you need to get the fuck out of there. If you smell smoke and if there's a fire. So the sense of smell is a very special sense, but every other sense goes through the RAS. And it's feeding the prefrontal cortex all of that information. Now, what about the prefrontal cortex? Okay, what the fuck does it do? So the way I want you to remember that, let me get my blue marker. The way I want you to remember that is plan, focus, and choose. The prefrontal cortex does these 3 things. Now, I showed you the prefrontal cortex here in the brain. The RAS you can't really see here because it's located inside the brainstem, right? This is the brainstem, by the way, this white part. The reason it's white is because it's receiving fibers from all the senses, right? And white is because these are axons, these are connections, these are sending information, right? It's the axon, so it's white. That's the color because the axons are covered with myelin, which is a sheath, which is a bunch of fat, because it needs to send signals far and very fast. So that's why it's white, if you're wondering. So here, in the brainstem, right here is the reticular activating system, right here, okay? In the brainstem, and it's inside. So the prefrontal cortex basically plans, focuses, and chooses, okay? Now, I put a plus here because it's sending these projections here. And now let me give you some examples of what happens in a person's life if they're not in control of this circuit. This is the goal here. We're getting control of this circuit. Not just the plus, but the minus, which I'm going to show you soon, right? Remember, the pluses come to the PFC and the minuses go to the RAS. And I'll show you that. It's all going to make sense. Let's say you're horny, right? You haven't had sex in a while. You really need to get an orgasm, pop a load. What you going to do, right? You're going to watch porn, most likely. Because it's available. It's right there, right? And because it's available and easy, porn will hijack your dopamine circuit. Remember what I mentioned earlier? There's certain things in the environment which easily hijack your dopamine circuit. Porn is one of them because it's easy, it's accessible, immediate reward. And when I talk about reward discounting soon, you're going to understand how it's really working from a mathematical perspective, okay? Now let's say you have friends that are, I put a football here because I remember when I was in high school, I had one goal, get straight A's. In university, I had one goal, get straight A's. During my master's and PhD, during grad school, I had one goal, publish amazing papers, right? That was it. Like, there's no other goal, right? Or to win the Nobel Prize. But you don't win the Nobel Prize during your PhD. That happens when you're much, much older. The reason I drew this football here is because in high school, even though my goal was to get straight A's, my friends would literally throw rocks at my window to let me come play football with them, right? Not let me, but to force me to play football with them while I was doing my homework. And they literally would continue to throw the rocks until I went and played. Now, why did they want me to play football? Okay, so a lot of people don't know this about me, but I was the starting wide receiver of my high school football team for a week. So what happened? So if you notice, if you look at my hands, they're fucking amazing. Right? I don't know if you know what football hands look like, but these are it right here, right? So catching the football like this, catching the football like this, right? And so somebody could throw me a football, right? And I was very, very good at catching. And I was also very fast. I could dive, I would take these risks because I fucking love football. But my focus was straight A's. And when I started playing football and I started going to practices and then I made the starting team, that week that I tried out and made the starting team, I made my first B in high school. And right when I made my first B, my mom and dad said, fuck this, drop out of football, cancel football. And I canceled it. And I was not wide receiver, but my friends knew how good I was. They wanted me to play and do all the cool moves that I was doing, all the jukes and all this cool football. We would draw the thing, the quarterback would be like, you go like this, then you go like that, and you go like that. And then we would do those things, right? Again, I grew up in Texas, huge football community. I fucking love it, okay? So if you have friends, what's going to happen, right? If you have friends. If you have friends who are telling you to play and blah, 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 what are you going to do? You're going to go and play, right? Now, this play may or may not be a waste of time. I mean, look, if you have a goal of becoming financially free and really getting out there and building businesses or getting promotions at your work or becoming an entrepreneur, whatever that is, you're going to have friends who are going to ask you to come drink beer. They're going to ask you to come and smoke a cigarette, smoke weed, do drugs, go on trips, whatever. It's your choice. Now, if these friends are toxic and they're getting you into bad habits, they're a distraction. And you need to be aware of these things. I mean, you don't need me to tell you. I'm just giving you an example of the RAS is going to let all this in. Okay? It's letting all of this in. It's for you to choose what you want to actually act upon and let into your working memory. Okay, poverty wiring. Okay, what is that? Poverty wiring, man. This was so hard for me to get rid of because poverty wiring is very, very deep in the brain. In fact, I'm going to talk about this area very soon, but the hippocampus, which is located right here, right? You see learning and memory. The hippocampus is actually smaller in people with lower socioeconomic status. So if you grew up poor, this is not about rewiring the hippocampus. That may do a future masterclass on that, a future workshop on that. But if you grew up poor, you're going to have poverty wiring. What is that? Oh, can I buy this thing? Oh, this thing is too expensive. I don't deserve this. Even if you get gifts, right? Even if you get gifts, you're going to be like, oh, I don't deserve this gift. I'm not cool enough for this, right? The poverty mindset is a scarcity mindset. And it's in most people. to be honest, right? So if you have this poverty wiring, you're going to have, and you know this, right? Victim mentality, right? So the RAS is going to let, the RAS is not just letting in to the PFC, the external senses, right? It's letting in anything that's relevant and anything that's arousing. And for a lot of people, the worry of money is arousing. It gives them meaning in life. It gives them something to fight for, right? Like saving every penny, that suffering, that pain can be arousing to people, believe it or not. It was arousing to me. And that's why I was stuck in poverty wiring all my entire life almost, right? Junk noise. This is a virus right here, man. There's a lot of junk noise. And what do I mean by that? Think of it like this. In your day-to-day life, when you're doing something, and it's very important for you, right? There's always going to be some noise that's going to get you away from it. For a lot of people, it's their social media addiction, their phone addiction. They have some internal negative thoughts. A lot of depressed people have these voices in their head that's telling them that they're no good, that they should kill themselves, that they're not worthy, right? And they're not, it's not worthy to live, right? This is happening in people, right? Very, very depressed people. And so that junk noise is something that you don't have to pay attention to, but the RAS is going to let it in. And if you're not in control of your working memory, if you're not in control of your focus center of your brain, then that junk noise is going to become a distraction, right? And this is a big, big, big distraction. It's literally like a virus in your brain. And you have to take that junk noise out. You're going to learn soon how to not get distracted anymore. Okay? So, how to detect a fraud. Now, why is that so damn important? Right? How the fuck is this so important? All right. So, in my life, one of the biggest mistakes I made, and I talked about that in parts 1 to 3 of the masterclass, is I was following gurus. Okay? Frauds. Now, what is a fraud, right? I'm going to get into the specifics of a fraud very soon. But the reason this is important is because in your life, if you're following gurus, scam artists, right? You don't know that they're frauds. Because I went through 4 business partners before my current business partner. And why my business partner is so essential, you're going to learn very soon why this is a big part of my life. But those 4 business partners that I had, they were frauds. They were scams. They were not honest people. And I got tricked because the RAS let that in. And my prefrontal cortex wasn't strong enough to inhibit all of that. So I accepted it, and I wasted years of my life. And it's not just my business partners, but some of my mentors who later on I saw, oh shit, this guy is a guru. This guy's fake. This guy's just in the limelight trying to become famous, fake it till you make it. He's not the real deal. He doesn't actually know what he's doing. Right? So how do you detect a fraud? This is very important. This is going to be very, very important. Okay, so I'm going to break it down in multiple different ways. Let's first look at rewiring. Okay? What do I mean by rewiring? The people who are legit, the people who you need to trust are those who have rewired their brain. Now, why is that? Sometimes people haven't really done a transformation in their life. Like, doing a transformation is rare. It's like only like 1% of people do a transformation, a real mental rewiring. It's not so accessible. Like what I'm teaching you here today is like nobody teaches this stuff. I don't know anyone in the entire world who's teaching a rewiring from a neuroscience perspective, plus the practical stuff that is happening day to day in your life. I don't know a single person in the world doing that. It's just me. Because I've lived a life where not only have I rewired my money brain and my wealth brain, but my relationship brain, my sex part of my brain, the health part of my brain, the fitness part of my brain, the focus part of my brain. All of those different facets I was able to rewire by meeting the right experts. But that's rare, right? And of course, as you know, I wrote everything down here. So like, I have proof here of exactly what I've done. And some of that stuff I'm showing you here, right? This is why it's so essential, because even people who do learn, they are right. And I was infamous. I mean, I gotta tell you this. My Nobel Prize mentor, David Hubel, used to tell everyone, it's like, this guy, Farhan, is like the most crazy, intense note taker I've ever seen or heard. And this guy was in neuroscience for like 50 plus years. He won the Nobel Prize, right? He figured out, and I talked about his studies in part 3 of the masterclass. He figured out that in the cat brain, when you deprive the cat of vision in one eye, and if you do it at a specific time in the kitten's life, the kitten will be blind forever. He discovered the critical period in the visual system, and it's like unbelievable. So that's why it's so important. You need to know if the guy is a scam artist, a guru, a fraud, he's stuck. He hasn't rewired his brain. He's pretending. So that's the first thing you need to ask when you follow someone, when you listen to someone. Has this guy fucking transformed in his life? Where's the damn proof? Show me the damn proof of his transformation. Okay? And your honest friend, transformation. Okay? Now the next one. Info, right? This is interesting. My first business partner, we were in business together. We started a company together. This is back in 2013, 2014 time. So 11 years ago. And he started hiding information from me. Right? He started hiding things, right? Hide. And what happened is, I'll tell you the specific story so you get some context. We recorded a series of videos that we were gonna market and promote in our business, right? It was how to boost testosterone, because I figured out how to double my testosterone, and then I started a supplement company, which is a very big brand in the world today. It's called Aphro-D. I doubled my testosterone naturally using this supplement, and many other people did the same thing. But this didn't start until 2017, 2018. But back in 2014, I was teaching people how to boost testosterone through exercise and food, and right, these types of biohacks that you can change in your behavior, right? And we recorded this course. It was called the Doc Testosterone Body, the Doc Testosterone Plan. We had different courses. And my business partner refused to give me access to the online platform where the course was. I was like, what? Anyway, I was able to get access to that eventually. But when this happened, when he refused to give full information, 100% of information, which an honest friend would do, and he hid the information, I got rid of it. And this happened over and over with other business partners. When someone is not fully honest, when you know they're hiding something from you, don't get in bed with them. And this is not just for business partners. This is for relationships. You know, if you get your girlfriend, your wife, friends that you're involved with, colleagues that you have the choice if you want to be with this person or not, Be very careful if they're not giving you full information. And you should also be an honest friend. This goes both ways. You need to do a transformation also. You cannot be stuck, or no one's going to want to be your friend, because then you're also not honest. You're living in this world today, you're on earth, and you have people like me showing you how to rewire your brain, and you're still not able to do it. There's no honesty here. You're a fraud then. You have to rewire your brain. You got no other choice. This is your life. The next one, safety, security. Extremely important. I'll tell you a story about me. I felt the deepest connection in my life. I have it with my beautiful wife. We traveled the world. We've been to many, many countries. We're still traveling. And she taught me this actually. Okay? And that is, a person will be vulnerable and authentic with you and give them their all when they feel safe, especially a woman. So if you're a guy watching this and you're unable to keep a relationship, you're unable to maintain a trusting bond with a girl, it's probably because she doesn't feel safe. And safety doesn't just come from having a lot of money. This helps for sure. If you have a lot of money, then the girl will feel secure, financially secure. She'll want to have a baby with you. She'll want to go on trips with you. She'll want to give her soul to you, and you give your soul to her. But only if she feels safe. And I have been in a lot of coaching calls with clients. I don't do coaching anymore, but when I used to do one-on-one coaching, a lot of them would say, I'm unable to give an orgasm to my woman. My wife has never had an orgasm. And this is not rare. Like, guys not being able to give orgasms to their wives or their girlfriends or their, fuck buddies or whatever, she doesn't feel safe. So maybe she'll fake it or whatever, right? And the other thing is kids. If you want to have kids with a woman, you want to start a family, you want to get married, you want to do the real family thing, she's got to feel safe. Or she's not going to want kids with anybody. It's big, man. So a scam artist is going to put fear in you, not make you feel safe, make you feel scared, and an honest friend will make you feel comfort. Cozy. Okay? With an honest friend, you can be authentic, right? You can be you, who you really are. And with a scam artist, you're a fake. You're not fully yourself. You're not able to fully be who you are with a scam artist. Okay, another thing you need to look for is the dopamine, and I put a fucking pizza here. Okay. When you see pizza, when you smell pizza, right, the reticular activating system lets in the smell. Of course, it lets in, because you see the pizza, it lets it in, gets your prefrontal cortex. You are going to get a lot of dopamine from smelling the pizza, looking at the pizza. Obviously, the dopamine will go away once you start eating it. That's how it works. Or the dopamine declines, because dopamine is the anticipation neurotransmitter, right? The motivation to do something. But for a scam artist, they're going to play small. And I told you this earlier, right? If you want to really hack your dopamine circuit, you have to play big. You have to play big. And when you trust people and you follow them, you're going to know they're experts if they're playing big. Big goals, big dreams. Let's say you don't want to eat this pizza, right? Because you want to lose weight, you want to gain muscle. This is like a shitty pizza from some shitty restaurant, which is like not even organic, it's bullshit, right? If you have a big goal, you ain't eating that pizza. A real big, dreamy goal I want you to have. That's what I want you to write in your black book today. Big goal. Man, if you saw, I don't really let anyone see this. I actually usually keep this in a safety deposit box at the bank. But right now I'm traveling and I don't trust the bank in this country. Sorry about that. But yeah, I never let this out of my sight when it's at home, and it has all the secrets in it. And one of the secrets this has is the goals that I've written for myself, over the last 12 years and what my current goals are. You need to write that, and you need to really cherish that, okay? Love. An honest friend really cares about you. And you can feel the care. A scam artist doesn't give a fuck. You probably already know that. And this phone call, okay. Scam artists will lie. They're never going to call you out. You want mentors and experts and teachers who are going to call you out. Not be yes men, say what you want to hear, sell to you, none of that. Listen to people who call your shit out. Okay? So, truth. And the way you know this is because when you're with this honest friend, they're going to tell you the truth always about you. So if you're doing you're doing some bullshit, they're going to tell you, bro, get your shit together. This is stupid. Okay? Now, self-awareness of brain wiring. Now, why is this important? Okay. Now you know what to look for in a mentor. Okay, and don't worry. I'm getting to the test very soon, show you how this works and how this pertains to the brain. It's very sexy stuff. I haven't forgotten, if you're wondering. It's still here. Self-awareness of brain wiring. Okay, now you know, now you're aware of how to pick a teacher, how to pick an expert. So you don't get fooled. And I got fooled many, many times. I don't want you to get fooled. But now, you need to know who you are. Because once you know who you are, you'll be able to get the right teacher. So, self-awareness of brain wiring. Now, this is not just some bullshit self-awareness crap you hear in a YouTube video. This is quantifying self-awareness. We're going to quantify it. Calculating your character. Calculating it. Quantifying it. Okay? So the first thing is, this is the Uncle Sam. Remember I told you about Uncle Sam earlier? Uncle Sam? Right? Now, what's going on here with Uncle Sam? So there's an Uncle Sam, which is like I said, it's like what we call the U.S. government Uncle Sam, right? He's like, I want you. And it's like, I want you for the army, right? I want you to pay tax. Like, it's this type of Uncle Sam. So there's a cognitive tax that your brain is paying. A lot of money involved here that you're paying, that you're giving away. Talked about this in part 2. In part 2, I talked about cognitive load. That's a different topic. Go watch part 2. It's really cool stuff, especially if you want to make money. You need to understand cognitive load. But cognitive tax is something that you're paying when you let the distractions get you. So for example, let me give you an example, okay? Let's say that, we'll give the typical example of, let's say you're working on something very important, something you love, okay? Even let's say you're on a date with your wife, your girlfriend, right? You're having a great conversation with her. You forgot to turn your phone on airplane mode because you're an idiot, right? You're listening to your wife and you're like paying attention to her, and all of a sudden, ding, on your phone. Now, when that ding happened, the RAS let it in to your cortex, right? To your consciousness. You get aroused. You have no choice. Because remember, the evolutionary circuitry says, holy shit, could be a predator, could be a prey that I want to kill, or I don't want to get killed, right? So you have no choice but to pay attention. If you didn't turn your phone in airplane mode, and you let this ding in, you just paid a cognitive tax. Why? Because when you're paying attention to your wife on this beautiful date that you have, and you let some distraction in and have this cognitive interference in that circuit, you just lost the optimal working memory that you had in that moment on a date. So you pay this tax. And you, my friend, are paying this tax all the time. Now, and for real, in order for you to not, and I'm going to show you how to pay zero tax. We want to pay fucking zero tax. We're already paying enough tax to the government. We don't want to pay any cognitive tax to these different corporations that are stealing your cognitive money away. If you don't want to pay this tax, one easy strategy is don't let the distraction in to the RAS. Should be easy enough to do. That's an easy protocol. Okay? And that way you keep your working memory optimized. That's what cognitive tax is, right? So in my opinion, we're in a fight, right? You have these social media companies, you have media, right? It's fucking YouTube itself, right? All these companies are trying to get your attention. So you pay the cognitive tax. And then they make the money. So be careful. We don't want to pay any tax. Okay? We don't want to evade tax. This is your money. Okay? And why is so important? Why am I bringing this up? Because look, the brain, right? If you look at the human brain, obviously this is a lot bigger than the human brain. This is 1.5 to 2 times bigger. But the human brain is 2% of the body weight. It's only 2%. But it takes up 20% of ATP. ATP is the energy unit in your body, right? The mitochondria generate ATP, you know, the biology of it. So even though the brain is 2% of your body weight, it's taking up 20% of ATP. And cognitive tax, you're wasting that energy, giving it away to these bastards. Careful. Okay. Cognitive set point, fucking important term. This is damn important. You know about the set point weight, right? Let me tell you that so you understand what cognitive set point is. So set point weight it's a range of weight which you are genetically predisposed to. Okay, this is a very, very interesting term. It has to do with the hypothalamus. One second. Excuse me. So, man, this water is getting on my test cards. Shit, it's okay. So, in weight loss and in health, the set point weight is this range of weight, which if your body is in balance, you're going to stay at this weight your whole life. Now that's without ultra processed food, without your hormone hijacking from the junk food and all this. Without all that, if you just eat normal natural food till you get full, you're never going to go beyond this set point weight, this range of weight. That's set point weight. Now, there's also a cognitive set point. The cognitive set point is your genetic, and I'm not going to discount genetics, dude. Like, let's get real, right? Some scams will tell you, oh, genetics don't matter. No. Of course genetics matter, right? Genetics matter, but they're not everything. How you live your life and how you rewire your brain, that can set yourself up for success despite your genetics. So if you think your genetics suck, well, then you got to rewire your brain even more. You got to pay real attention to what I'm telling you here today, okay? So cognitive set point, and of course ADHD, OCD people, they have different cognitive set points. Cognitive set point is the range of how much you can handle in your working memory, right? At a given time, how much cognition, how much thinking can you take on before you go crazy or before you become burnt out, right? That's the cognitive set point, right? And one way you can test this is you test different rhythms, right? So you guys know about the circadian rhythm, right? If you wake up in the morning when the sun rises, when you sleep at night when the sun is sets, you're following the circadian rhythm, right? It's the rhythm of the sun. Okay. And of course, that's also in your body. There's a suprachiasmatic nucleus in the brain, in the hypothalamus, and that has a clock, and that is basically with the circadian rhythm because the body also knows this rhythm. There's another rhythm called the ultradian rhythm. You may know about this. The ultradian rhythm is usually an hour and a half, 2 hours, depending on who you are, right? Depending on the person, but it could be like an hour and a half to 2 hours. But for some people it's an hour. And now the ultradian rhythm is going down. The rhythm is not going down, but the maximum amount of time you can spend on one task without getting tired, because of a lot of people are losing their attention, a lot of people have distraction, a lot of people are multitasking. I'm going to tell you about multitasking soon and what happens in the brain should you do multitasking. Very soon I'll tell you. That ultradian rhythm is becoming disgruntled. It's becoming a little chaotic in a lot of people. But it's generally, how long can you think for a given period of time without getting burnt out? Okay? And the higher that number is, the more successful you will be. Because focus requires you to pay attention to one thing. Attend to one thing without any distractions, right? So you need to know what your ultradian rhythm is. So write that down in your black book. Write it down. Know this. How long can you go towards it? And time yourself if you don't know this answer. How long can you go to do a certain thing without getting burnt out and still come back to it later on after taking a break? Okay? So that's something we need to remember now. Let me talk about ADHD and OCD real quick. Very, very important. There's nothing wrong with you. I don't even know why we call these things disorders. I think this is stupid. I don't think ADHD and OCD are disorders. I think they're just conditions that people have, and they can maximize it, optimize it, and be amazing using this. I mean, I have friends who have ADHD. I have a really good buddy, a Mexican guy. He had ADHD when he was 2. He was diagnosed, and he's been taking pills since he was 2. And now, of course, he overcame it. He rewired his brain. He followed a lot of the protocols that I'm telling you today here, a lot of the things. And he's doing great, right? He runs the largest ADHD group in Latin America. This guy's fucking amazing. Same thing with OCD, right? People who have OCD, they have a lot of weight, right? They're paying a lot of cognitive tax. Because think about it, right? If you leave your house, you shut your door, and you have OCD, you think it's not locked, and you keep checking it, you're paying cognitive tax, my friend. You understand? I don't know, let's say you turn off your lights and you're leaving and you're like, oh, should I turn off my lights? And you go back and you check. That OCD, you're paying cognitive tax. Like it or not, this is a reality. Some people are spending 7 hours taking a shower because they're scared of, being dirty and all that. They have OCD, that's fine, but you're paying cognitive tax. You're not going to become wealthy like that. No way. You got to get rid of that shit. Okay, you have to rewire. I rewired my brain for OCD, right? When I was an undergrad doing computer science, I worked at IBM, and I remember every time I would leave the parking lot, I would walk a little bit, then go back, check the door, and I would walk a little bit more, get to the elevator, come back, check the door. I had this OCD, and I fucking rewired it. In fact, I have an OCD rewiring protocol in my black book. how exactly I rewired my OCD. It's fucking amazing. It's like insane stuff. We don't have time to talk about it today, but maybe in a future video I'll do that. Okay? So OCD, ADHD. This topic is amazing. Reward discounting. Okay, let's get into this next. Reward discounting. Everyone wants a discount, but not here. In this case, discounting is bad. It's bad, because you're discounting a reward. You want to maximize rewards. You don't want to discount rewards. So what the hell is reward discounting and how does it relate to dopamine? So cool. Okay, now, here's you. Okay, I did my best to draw a person here. And here is the time frame of rewards starting, ending. Okay, let's talk about a few examples. Okay, this I drew this brain here is because this brain represents the internal thoughts that you have that are coming in based on the environment and based on your childhood. You have these internal thoughts that are in you all day long, right? The negative thoughts. That's what this brain represents. Here I drew a phone, right? This thing is a phone, right? Here I drew pornography, and here I drew Vegas, right? And I also drew a McDonald's sign. Now, what is all this? This stuff has fucking big reward if you get it right now. Imagine you have a goal, you have a Big Mac in front of you, and I fucking don't like that stuff. I hate that stuff. But for those of you who like McDonald's, right? Or ice cream, I like ice cream, obviously, I eat ice cream. But I eat good ice cream, really good stuff, good ingredients. But let's say you have some really nasty junk in front of you, right? Like McDonald's. And you eat it. You gulp it down. You get dopamine from seeing it, from holding it. And then once you start taking a bite, obviously dopamine goes down and it goes eventually below baseline and you feel like yuck towards it. This is usually what happens in people. They feel shit after, right? Because then dopamine has gone below baseline because cortisol has increased. But when you see that delicious food, imagine some delicious food that you love, some junk food, some chips or cookies or whatever the fuck you like. And you see it, you get this dopamine boost. Now, for these rewards, right? McDonald's, the inner negative thoughts, right? Using your cell phone, going on social media and fucking around on TikTok, whatever. And I drew Vegas here also because when I was in Vegas, I was a degenerate, right? I mean, a lot of you know my Vegas story. I was picking up girls all day long. Evil Stifler taught me that. And then once he got me started, I was like unbelievable. Became a coach. The pickup dating company hired me. After like a few weeks of being there, it was amazing. And I was gambling. I was, playing poker. I was betting on sports. Like I was doing all of this. I was a degenerate gambler in Vegas. All of that gave me reward. The anticipation. I wonder if I'm going to win. I wonder if I'm going to win this hand. If I go all in, is the guy going to call? Like all of this stuff gave me a lot of dopamine. Okay? Now, I'll explain to you where reward discounting comes in. It's very, very interesting, but here's how it works. Okay, what I've drawn here is faith. I'll tell you why faith is important. I drew a cross, represents religion, right? This represents a degree, college degree, right? Because it takes like 4 years, 6 years, 7 years, 10 years, depending on what you want to do. Here's a relationship, right? Like love. Right? And here I drew like a car. Let's say you love to drive a Ferrari, a Lamborghini, like whatever you want, right? Rolls Royce, whatever you want, right? Now, the reason it's here is because whatever you're doing right now, represents now, okay? Whatever you're doing right now will get you these things or it won't get you these things, right? So let's say you want to get a PhD or you want to get a bachelor's degree, master's degree, whatever, you're doing a certificate, a diploma, whatever, right? If you want to get that, this will depend on what you're doing now. However, the reward of getting a degree or marrying a beautiful wife or getting a Lamborghini or a Ferrari, whatever the hell you want, right? Or going to heaven after you die. All of that is in the future. It's in the future. So the brain discounts that reward. It decreases it. Okay? So the reward of heaven is not heaven today. So for example, let's say you believe that God wants you to not have sex before marriage. Let's say, okay? Or let's do another one. Let's say you believe that if you want to get into heaven, you should not scam people of their money. Fair enough. Today you have an opportunity to scam someone and make, let's say, $10,000. Okay. If you don't scam them, you're not going to heaven today. You're going to heaven after you die. Way later. Because you kind of know you're not dying right now. You're dying in the future sometime. So that reward of heaven gets discounted. And your brain calculates, what is heaven worth today? Is it today it's worth 1% of heaven? 0.1%? 5%? And it also depends on the task. You understand? If you're going to cheat someone for, let's say, $10 million, then the brain will say, okay, heaven today, is it worth $10 million? Maybe not. So I should scam this guy. You understand? Reward discounting. I'll give you another example. Okay. The degree. You want to get a degree. It's going to take you 4 years. So you're studying right now. Right? In 4 years, you get a degree. Right now, the thing you're studying, you're not getting a degree right now. You're just like a homework, some quiz or some shit, like midterm, like whatever, right? But at the same time, you could go out and drink beer with your buddies. So the homework or the quiz that you're studying for, how much is that worth compared to that future degree? How much is it worth right now? It's not worth the degree. It's discounted. That reward is discounted. And it's worth way less today than the actual degree. So maybe you go drink beer because it's worth more. It's more rewarding to you, right? And the key, my friend, you want to make reward discounting 0. That's what I did. I rewired my brain, this circuit, the circuit that I'm talking about, the dopamine circuit, right? Because the prefrontal cortex is running on dopamine. When I rewired my dopamine circuit, I started getting the full reward from that day's actions. So right now I'm recording this masterclass, right? This workshop right here in front of you. Whatever my goals are for the future, for my family, my immediate family, my extended family, whatever my goals are for the world, the reward I'm getting right now doing this presentation is equal to that reward. So there is no discount. The reward is not discounting. It is the reward right now. And that's what I want from you. That's how I'm going to rewire your brain. Do you understand? And now, the proof that you are a rat. You get this, reward discounting, eh? Again, if you don't get it, comment. I'll explain it in a future video. I have an entire protocol that I've written here, step-by-step protocol that I followed, and you can get this. I'll show you how to get this at some point, how to get all my black book stuff. Prove that you are a rat. Damn, I love this stuff. Check it out, bro. Check it out, check it out, check it out. McGill's badass experiment. This is not Jimmy McGill from Better Call Saul. Me and my wife are watching Better Call Saul right now. We're on season 3. It's so good. It's such a good show. It's such a good show. I already watched Breaking Bad. Now I'm watching Better Call Saul. It's so good. I learned so much from this show. My God. I'm not talking about Jimmy McGill's badass experiment. I'm talking about McGill University's badass experiment. Okay. So I got my PhD from McGill, right? From the Montreal Neuro, right? You see it right here. So McGill University has done some fucking insane neuroscience over the last 80 years or so. Maybe even more than 80 years, but I know the last 80 years very well. Right? A lot of those people are my colleagues. I had dinner with them. They were my mentors. They read my papers. I read their papers. We had masterminds when I was at the MNI and studying at the library and stuff, right? So let's talk about this badass experiment. Let me tell you what this experiment is. And before I tell you this really cool experiment, like maybe the greatest discovery ever in neuroscience. I know in part 3 I told you about another discovery which I believe is the greatest discovery. This may be the second greatest discovery in neuroscience. It's so fucking cool, and my McGill boys did it. So, okay, this study, okay, you might know McGill, you might know the Montreal Neuro from my previous videos or others. I'm not talking about patient HM. Okay, patient HM is Brenda Milner's patient. Brenda Milner was one of my mentors. I took the medical school classes with her. She's 106 years old. Fucking crazy good memory. She discovered where memory is in the brain. She literally, so what they did way back is they did a temporal lobe. They took out the temporal lobe, mainly the parahippocampal area here, because of the guy had intractable seizures, and the seizures went away because they took out a big part of the medial temporal lobe near the hippocampus and the hippocampus as well. And once they took that out, the seizures went away, but the guy had problems with his memory. And that's how we discovered where memory sits in the brain, and memory consolidation and stuff like that is in the hippocampus. I'm not talking about that. Then you might know Dr. Penfield, who mapped different sensory areas to the brain. You may know about the homunculus, this weird looking creature. Go look that up. It's really cool. Dr. Penfield figured that out. Also at McGill, also at the Montreal Neuro. Fucking awesome guy. Of course, I never met him. He had passed away when I started my PhD, but I did meet his students and postdocs. Now, what Dr. Penfield did, and we even have a street named after him near my university, what he did was he figured out how different sensory areas in the body are mapped to the brain. So for example, he would start manipulating and stimulating the part of the brain that is in charge of, let's say, the pointer finger, right? And just by stimulating that part, the person would feel that someone was touching his middle finger. So Dr. Penfield figured that out. He even mapped the motor cortex. So he would stimulate a part of the brain, let's say to raise the arm up, and the person would raise the arm up. He would stimulate, the person would raise the arm up without even wanting to raise the arm up. So Penfield figured that out. I'm not even talking about that study. And of course, many other cool studies at McGill. I'm not talking about any of those. I'm talking about a study from 1954. Let me give you some background of the study because it's so fucking cool and you're going to be so amazed. Okay. So there's a guy, Peter Milner, at Cambridge, who's a British dude, and he was an electrician, right? He was an electronics genius. And he had this interest in neuroscience. So he's like, okay, I'm going to go all in neuroscience. He was really sexy stuff. So he's an electrical engineer who started neuroscience. And he got a position to come to McGill from Cambridge, right? And you see this? Use it or lose it. Neurons that fire together, wire together. These things are said by Donald Hebb. And Donald Hebb, of course, is from McGill. He had his lab at McGill. And so one of the fathers of neuroplasticity, who came up with these terms and did a bunch of neuroplasticity experiments, he was at McGill, where I got my PhD from, and Peter Milner from Cambridge got accepted by Donald Hebb as a PhD student. He took a year of psychology, became good, and then got a job with Donald Hebb. Now, Peter Milner was the first person to design the electrode and the entire electrode system, which I'm trying to draw here, where you can stimulate the rat's brain and you can record activity of that area of the brain, right? The spikes, brr, 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 right? The spiking activity, the action potentials, right? So he figured this out. And so he went to the Hebb's lab at McGill, designed this whole apparatus. And when he was in his 4th year, right? This is, and I said Peter Milner, I'll write it here. Peter Milner. Go read the 1954 paper, it's fucking gold. Peter Milner, and then there's another guy, James Olds. So James Olds, also a fucking gangster, also comes to Donald Hebb's lab, and Olds and Milner are working together. Now, Peter Milner is the husband of Brenda Milner. Remember I mentioned Brenda Milner, who discovered where memory, how memory is consolidated in the brain and where memory sits in the brain? Peter Milner was her husband, and they both came to McGill, and it was a deal. Like, they both come to McGill. Brenda will get a job, Peter will get a job, and they both work as scientists. So check this out. They designed this experiment where they wanted to record from, this is so fucking cool, bro. They wanted to record from the reticular formation. Not the reticular activating system. The reticular activating system is a part of it, but the reticular formation is the big bundle of nerves. So they wanted to record from that because they were interested in what the hell it does. That's how we do it, right? In neuroscience. I recorded from the visual system during my PhD, area V1, MT, MST, other areas, and I discovered how vision happens hierarchically and how the models are generated from one region to the other. Go read my PhD thesis, read my papers, you're going to see how it works, the visual system. So the experiments they designed is so epic, okay? Now, James Olds comes to McGill to work in Donald Hebb's lab, and now he meets Peter Milner, who's already a 4th year PhD student. So they start working together. And they put in the electrode to the reticular formation because they wanted to know what the hell it does. So they do this on Wednesday, and on Monday they're going to start recording because it takes time to, the sutures have to get healed and stuff. So they give it time, and the rat is walking around in the maze in the little box, right? He's walking around all day long, all night long, and he's sleeping at night, of course. He wakes up, he walks, getting his food and all. And Monday is when they're going to start the experiment. But Sunday night, they come just to check if everything is okay. So James Olds, Peter Milner, they're in the lab, everything is okay. The rat has the electrode, right? And he's not hooked up to anything, by the way, right? He's just walking around, and they can zap the part of the brain they think they're in. They think they're in the reticular formation. I'm going to tell you what exactly happened. So they can stimulate this area of the brain and see what the hell the rat does. But it's not hooked up to anything like this. This is a lever, by the way. I'm not sure if I drew it right, but this is a lever. It's not hooked up yet. They're not doing this experiment yet. They just want to see what the fuck happens in the reticular formation. So Sunday night, they come. They're like, okay, let's do a real quick test, and then we'll start the experiment the next day, Monday. So they stimulate. They zap this part, right? It's called deep brain stimulation. They pass electricity, they pass current into the area of the brain. And the rat leaves the corner he was at, and then he comes back. That's weird. Rats are very exploratory. They're exploring their environment all the time. Why the fuck did this guy come back to the same corner? Now they zap 3 times. And the rat is usually walking all the time, by the way. The rat is very exploratory. He's looking for food all the time. Now the rat goes a little bit and then comes back and kind of stays there. Weird. Super weird. No one has discovered something like this. So now they do lots of stimulation to this rat, and he's not moving. He's stuck. What do you think they discovered? Greatest discovery, maybe, in neuroscience. Started so many other studies. They discovered reward. They discovered the area of the brain that signals reward in the rat. In the basal forebrain, by the way, I've got to tell you this, the electrode was bent. And like a lot of studies in neuroscience, along with my PhD studies, I also discovered something through Serendipity. They were recording from the basal forebrain right here, area right here, inside the basal forebrain, called the Nucleus accumbens. And they discovered the Nucleus accumbens. Of course, the prefrontal cortex is also a dopamine area. That's higher order stuff. But when you get addicted to something, you get addicted to crack, you get addicted to meth, addicted to porn, the area in charge of that is the Nucleus accumbens, right? So, Nucleus accumbens. So they discovered this area. They discovered the reward, the pleasure area in the rat brain. They didn't even know, but they did it. And then what they did was like, fuck, let's do a test. So they did some cool shit. What they did was they would put food far away, right? And the rat would see the food, and the rat would be walking, going towards the food. Again, the rat is not even to the lever. He's not hooked up to the lever yet, okay? He's just, the electrode is in him, and they can stimulate the electrode. He's walking towards the food, and halfway they zap, and he just sits there. And they keep zapping, and he doesn't move, even though there's food in front of him. Seem familiar? Seem familiar? You know those guys, those retired folks at the slot machine in Vegas or at the casino, whatever casino you know? You know they're sometimes peeing in the diaper they're wearing because they can't leave. They're hijacked dopamine circuit by the casino. I know how this works. Mine was also hijacked by Vegas casinos. They're pulling the slot machine 24/7, not going to sleep. They're completely addicted simply because their nucleus accumbens is getting zapped by the slot machine. And what's interesting, and what I'm about to tell you soon, is they're zapping it themselves because they're the ones pulling the lever. And you're no different. I was no different. I was a rat just like this. You know, when you're on your phone, you're pressing the lever. You're zapping yourself. Those distractions, it's you. Okay. Now before they did the lever experiment, they trained the rat how to find the food in the maze. So what they would do is the rat is moving. If the rat takes the correct turn, they zap him. Now he knows, because remember, dopamine is also the neurotransmitter for learning. So he knows that him taking a right is reward. And then he would go. Then he would take a left, zap. Taking a left is also reward. And they trained the rat how to get to the food inside a maze like this through the zapping. And then came this fucking crazy experiment. They hooked up the electrode to a lever, like the slot machine, like your fucking social media that you're addicted to, the news you're addicted to, all this stuff. They hooked this up so when the rat presses the lever, right? Obviously, he's not doing this. He's pressing the lever like this, because that's how rats press levers. As he's pressing the lever, he's getting zapped. And bro, this fucking rat did 2,000 zaps per hour. Does that sound familiar at all? Doom scrolling social media, going from website to website, watching porn, going from different channel to channel, different stupid video to stupid video. Probably sounds familiar. 2,000. And then when they stopped they took the power out, he was pressing the lever and nothing was happening. He stopped. He went to sleep. That's like you do porn, you ejaculate, you go to sleep, right? There's no more reward. That was happening. So these guys did this fucking crazy study. Bravo, like, clap, man. Good job, guys. So for me, how bad it was. When I was addicted to my phone, I still remember me and my brother, we would camp out outside of the Apple store in Montreal, and we would be the first people in line to get the new iPhone. And when I got the iPhone, I remember I had my own bed. When I was living with my parents, there was no iPhone then. But when we were living in Montreal, it was me and my brother, and we had separate beds, right? We were living in one apartment together, right? Because he also went to university in Montreal. So I'm in my bed, and I still remember I would take the iPhone and I would put it on the pillow next to me and literally treat it like my wife, my girlfriend. That's how addicted I was. I thought the phone was the coolest thing ever. It fucking crazy hijacked me, man. So this was me. And again, scattered wiring, right? My brain was so hijacked by all these different distractions. There was so much interference in my brain. I was paying so much cognitive tax. My reward discounting was so high. I just wanted immediate, quick, fix reward. Okay? And of course, set point reward discounting. And soon I'm going to tell you the man who rewired my brain is a fucking epic guy. I'll tell you more about him in the future. I don't want to get too much involved in his story today, because I do want to finish soon. But what had happened in me, right? And this is where this comes in. This right here. So, this scattered brain, right? When I was in high school, I had no idea what the hell I wanted to do, right? Am I going to be a computer scientist? Am I going to do biology? Am I going to become a doctor? I had no idea what I wanted to do, because my goal was simply to get straight A's. That's all I cared about. That's what my parents cared about. That was it, right? So I took all the hard classes. I had the hardest schedule in my entire high school. Trust me, I know, right? And I made straight A's. When I got into university, I started off in pre-med, to become a medical doctor. And then because the computer science field was so hot, I talked to my parents and we decided that I'm going to do computer science, right? So I was very scattered. I didn't know what the fuck to do. And I got a computer science degree as my first undergraduate degree, my bachelor's degree. And then I did neuroscience, master's, and PhD at McGill, right? And my undergraduate computer science was at the University of Texas at Arlington, also a great fucking school. So I had a scattered brain, very like OCD, ADHD brain, whatever you want to call it, because I was interested in everything. I couldn't pay attention to one thing. I was always multitasking, right? A lot of cognitive tax. And so once I got into university and I did an amazing computer science degree, before my grad school, I decided that I'm going to do neuroscience, right? And even while I was doing neuroscience, my brain was scattered because I wanted to have sex with girls. I wanted to go to clubs. I was drinking, doing different drugs, right? And then when I went to Vegas, I was still scattered because yes, I was becoming amazing at picking up girls, but I was also gambling. I was also, poker gambling on sports. I was like staying up all night. I was managing the Las Vegas program because they made me in charge. I was doing a lot of shit, making YouTube videos starting in 2015, right? There was a lot of stuff going on. And once I started learning how to make money at that time, right, 2014, when I met all the billionaires and I went to those parties that I talked about in part 2, when that happened, I was learning how to make quick money, right? How can I just become a bit rich? So I have a lot of money in the bank account, but not necessarily wealth, not necessarily establishing a brand, because with a brand, you get real wealth, right? And I don't just mean a product brand, but the brand in your brain, your brand, who you are, right? Even the top engineers, if they have a brand, they make more money. The people in pharmaceutical companies, if they have a brand, they make more money. The brand exists here. It's your confidence, it's your personality, it's your character, right? That's why we quantified your character earlier. So when I finished my Vegas stuff and I became an entrepreneur. What I was doing is I was selling other people's products. I was an affiliate marketer, right? Crazy shit, man, crazy story. Because what I learned from my super wealthy friends when I went to these parties and stuff, they gave me some tricks on how to make money quickly, but also how to brand myself, right? But I was so scatterbrained. And of course, I was teaching them how to pick up girls and stuff too, right? So it was like we were all distracted. They weren't that focused. And even if you look at people who are filthy rich today, if they don't keep focused, they're going to lose their wealth. And you know this. You know companies that have gone bankrupt who used to do amazing 10 years ago, 20 years ago. And now you don't even hear about them because they lose focus, right? So you want to make a lot of money, but you want to also learn how to keep that money, okay? So I was an affiliate. I was like selling other people's products. I was doing decent. I was doing well. Some businesses were failing, some were doing okay. I was selling ebooks. I was, and I wrote this here is because at a certain point, and this person, the man who rewired my focus, is also the person who saved me and saved my brain big time. Huge influence on my life, right? Dude, while I was doing these businesses early on, I was interested in fashion. So I became a fashion designer. I spent 6 to 8 months in New York working at a fashion house. People who work for Oscar de la Renta, and I was like designing different clothes, and I was doing sewing, and I was learning pattern design and like Roboff, which is like you take a product and you make your own replica of it. I was doing all this shit. I designed a jacket. I painted it. I did a hat. Like a really cool hat that I wore all the time. It was like people stopped me on the street. Like I was fucking good, right? And then I also started acting. I hired an acting coach who taught Cameron Diaz how to act. You can go look him up. He got Cameron Diaz the role for The Mask and made her famous. So I was getting one-on-one training from this guy, okay? So I was doing all this stuff, and this man fucking saved me. Because I was not focused at all, okay? I was just like way over my head, paying all of this cognitive tax, had no idea about reward discounting, just terrible. And this guy taught me all this stuff, gave me all the lessons, and that's why today we have such an amazing brand. And let me tell you who this guy was. The number one most focused person I have ever met. Let me tell you a little bit about this guy. Let me tell you how focused and dedicated this guy was. Me and him, I'll tell you who he is soon, but me and him, we belong to the same religious community. And when he saw me back in 2014, doing crazy shit. No one in our religious community dare do that stuff, right? But he wanted to do it. He wanted to like see what's out there because he was also brought up like I was, right? A very sheltered Muslim kid. So this guy went to Vegas like me. He followed my path. He went to strength camp like me. Followed my path, right? He was that focused on the goal. Insane guy, right? And of course, he followed me in many other things. And this guy is my business partner, my current business partner, the person I trust the most in the world when it comes to money. Because the way he rewired my brain, of course, the billionaire guys, they rewired my brain to make money initially. But then to focus and keep the money and establish a brand that can keep getting you money forever and establish those assets, it was my business partner, my current business partner. And we've started many brands that we've built, world, international, famous brands now. And one of them is, of course, our supplement brand, Ph.D, which is a testosterone booster supplement. And we have hundreds of thousands of customers of that brand now, lots of reviews, and it just is doing really, really well. We're doing so well that even though we don't advertise it, we sell this product because people tell each other, and the customers that we've already had for so many years, they keep buying from us. So I'm very, very grateful to you guys who are part of the Ph.D community and doing that. So let's really figure out this circuit now, okay? And we'll go to this test once again, the test that I was doing before. It's the Stroop, and I'll get back to my business partner and what all this is, and really pin down on multitasking and all this stuff and what distractions are. So this circuit, if you notice, right, in the previous slide, I talked about how this goes to this and it's a plus, right? It was a exciting, right? This part was exciting this part, right? And just so we're clear, this is PFC, right? And this is the RAS, as you know, right? So this part was exciting this part. Remember all the pluses? I'm sure you wrote it in your notes. Now the more important one, the really important connection, which I'm testing here, or which I'm about to test in your brain, it's the PFC, right? PFC inhibiting the opposite of exciting, inhibiting the RAS. You see all these minuses? Minus. And the reason I drew this virus here is because this connection, strengthening this connection from the PFC to the RAS, the inhibitory connection, will take this virus out. And the virus is the block that you have, right? The fact that you're stuck in life and unable to make the right decisions and unable to welcome the wealth and attract the wealth and the beautiful wife and so on in your life. This inhibition is what you have to master. What you're doing right here, right now, okay? Now, how does it work? So when the RAS gives all of this excitation to the prefrontal cortex, the prefrontal cortex can choose which of those are important for the goal, for the dream that you have. So it will inhibit different things that is not relevant, is not according to the plan, it's not in the strategy. It will inhibit, and it will only keep in working memory, prefrontal cortex, right? Working memory, right here. It's what you're paying attention to. It will only keep in working memory what is important for the goal. That's what I'm teaching you here, okay? Remember that. Now, Stroop test. When I show you this, you read blue, right? This blue is the stimulus going from the RAS to the PFC. It's a very strong stimulus. If I tell you to tell me the color, right, what the marker is written in, right, it's green, right? Green is the right answer. The reason you can't say green, or the reason it's hard to say green, you have to think, is because the word blue is a stronger stimulus than the color green. So when the RAS sends the excitation to the prefrontal cortex, the word blue is stronger. That's why blue comes first. So you have to inhibit the word blue and say green. This is how you avoid distraction. Let me give you another one. We did this earlier. Quick. Yellow is the wrong answer, obviously, right? The right answer is blue. You are inhibiting the word yellow and coming up with the right answer, blue. See, this is now making way more sense, right? The answer is red. The answer is blue. Try to be quick. How quick can you be is how strong your prefrontal cortex connection is to the RAS. Red. Green. Red. I'll do more of this stuff in a future video. I know it's fun. It was fun making all this stuff. It was really cool. So that's the Stroop test. That tests this connection. Can you inhibit the distractions? And what's really interesting about the really strong distractions are that they are indeed stronger than your goal. Especially if your reward discounting is fucked up, right? If you're discounting a lot and the reward today is not worth much, like let's say you want to marry a beautiful wife, or you want to get a beautiful wife, okay. And you have a chance to do a one-night stand. And you're already dating a girl that you think is going to be your wife. And now you can do a one-night stand with some other bitch, right? If you have that one-night stand, then that future reward may be gone. You may be thinking about it. She may find out. There's millions of problems, right? You're going to be, you're not trustworthy anymore. You may feel bad, whatever that is. So that future reward of marrying some beautiful woman and having the love of your life, if you're discounting that big time, then that one night stand is going to be stronger. It's going to be like saying yellow here instead of red, because it's a stronger stimulus. So you have to rewire your brain so that every time you avoid the distraction of a one-night stand or looking at some girl or fantasizing about some weird fake thing, every time you avoid that, it's like deep connection with your wife. Remember, big goals. We have big goals. Ultra wealthy, beautiful, deep relationship, and a healthy body. Not one of those three. Let's get it all right? So neural inhibition, we just talked about that, okay? You understand this is a big one, okay? And I talked about neural mirroring in part 3 of the masterclass. You can go watch that. When I met my business partner, okay? So the way it worked is before we started the supplement company and established our brand FOD, he came up to me and said, man, I want to work with you, right? And I was like, dude, I don't really have money. I'm a one-man show. Like I had a few interns and stuff, like 3 or 4 interns working for me for free. I'm like, look, I can't really pay you. So he's like, I'll work for you for free. And this guy worked for free for me for 1 year. Full focus. And this guy came from finance. He comes from the business world, right? He's very good at operations. His cognitive load abilities amazing. Cognitive set point really high. Like really focused motherfucker. Like a robotic, like an AI type, right? And so after the year, he's like, let's run a company together. Let's start a business together. And I'm like, sure. And now we're business partners. So crazy focus. And I was able to mirror him. I did neural mirroring from him and downloaded the focus wiring in my brain because it was very bad at the time. And now it's amazing. My level of focus is fucking nuts right now. Okay, so again, cognitive interference. I told you about that earlier, right? So you're good. Okay, now the big questions, right? Single tasking versus multitasking. Dr. Gloria Mark has done some beautiful experiments, right? Basically what she did was she went in a business setting and people were working on a project and then she made them switch the task, go do something else, something not relevant, and then come back to what they were doing. And she found out that it takes about 23 minutes to have the same level of attention and working memory, focus that you had before you left. So multitasking is stupid. In fact, the brain can't even do multitasking. It doesn't exist. What the brain is doing is switching. So if you're texting and eating and you're on your Instagram and you're watching some TV and you're on the phone and you're working on some project, you're not multitasking. Your brain switches, right? The prefrontal cortex. It's switching goals. And you ain't gonna succeed that way. Don't ever be multitasking. The game is single tasking. Once you become really good at single tasking, my God, the world becomes beautiful. Trust me on this, man. Especially if you love what you're doing, all right? The default mode network. Ooh, this is a cool one. Very cutting edge shit here. The default mode network is active when you're wondering, right? When you daydream, when you sit and you like visualize, you wonder, you let your mind go somewhere weird. That's activating the default mode network. It's like your brain at rest, not doing anything. You need to make this stronger. For me, this area is extremely strong. Now, how do I do that? One easy tip for you is, so when I'm doing something, I'm not thinking of something else. Like right now I'm talking to you, right? I'm not thinking of shit. When I'm showering, I'm not thinking of anything. When I'm doing the dishes, I'm not thinking of anything, right? When I'm cleaning something, when I finish this talk and I'm gonna put all of this up, the lights and the camera and everything I'm gonna put up, I'm not thinking of anything. I'm fully engaged in what I'm doing. That's focus. You need to become better at that. You need to wire yourself for that to make your default mode network stronger. Like get good at being bored in a way. Like, for example, if you're watching something and it's boring, you might put it at 2x speed, 3x speed. I know I've done that before. But if something is really interesting, at least it works for me. I only watch interesting stuff now. I don't want to go above 1x. I want to absorb every fucking word of this shit. I don't care how slow it is. I want it to go in and absorb the information. FOMO and losing. Okay, this is very important. The reason these social media companies have become so successful, even the news agency, right? Recently, this Charlie Kirk thing happened. I didn't even know about it until somebody told me. I had no idea. when we had the pandemic, I never watched the news. In fact, I was in Kiev at the time. I was studying with the sex master, which I talked about in part 3 of the masterclass, and in part 1 also. And I got a call from my brother, and he's like, dude, get the hell to Canada. There's a pandemic. And like, I mean, obviously I knew there was a pandemic, but he's like, let's go. Like, you need to get the hell out of there. So I took the last flight out of Kiev to get to Canada. And I was there during the pandemic in Montreal and Vancouver. And so I don't pay attention to news. I didn't know about Charlie Kirk or any of this shit. Like, I'm just focused on my goal. I don't give a shit about anything else. I swear to God, man. Like, I'm the last person to find out what is happening in the world. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. Okay? So I don't have FOMO, and I don't give a shit about, like, if I lose some information that exists in the world. I don't care. The media and all of these news people, they got nothing on me. Nothing. Okay? I don't let that shit distract me. And I learned all of this by downloading this focus rewiring from my business partner. He taught me all this shit. He gave me all these lessons, man. And again, wrote everything in here. Write. Please write down everything. You're going to love it, man. You're going to love it. This routine, this discipline that you have. And now I have 0 reward discounting. So as I'm making this video right now, whatever my goals are for the future, I'm feeling the goals right now. My dopamine is as strong right now as it will be when I achieve that goal. Hence, I keep doing it. And hence, I'm fully focused. Okay? So reward discounting, you want literally to make it 0. That's the goal. Okay? If that doesn't make sense, I'll make another video for you. Just comment below and let me know. Now, the next video that I'm making, I want to talk about how to rewire the brain to make the right decisions. Right? So you may understand focus, but what do you focus on? You may understand goals, but what should your goals be? You may understand that, oh, this is my goal, but how can you have confidence in that goal? How can you make the right decision to get to that goal? Right? There's all these nuances when it comes to the brain and different brain circuitry, which I want to get into the next video. But you tell me what you want the next video to be. What type of masterclass, what type of workshop do you want next? And I'll make it for you guys. Like, I'm here to serve you. I love this. Like, the moment that my business partner taught me that when we serve, and remember, like, we don't cut any corners, right? Like, in our supplement, no fillers, no additives. Every review is real. Every testimonial is real. Like, we never cut corners, ever, ever, ever. Everything has an audit trail. Everything has a paper trail. We're that strict in what we do, and I learned all of that from my business partner. And so, yeah, you let me know what you want to discuss next. And look, man, I'm fully focused. I just want to serve the world. And I have this gift of my transformation that I achieved over the last 12 years. And I did it back in the day very quickly. And then I've basically maintained it till today. So now I'm teaching the world. So if you want to learn something, if this was valuable, please let me know. I love encouragement, so I can... I know others can also learn. Share this video with your friends if they can learn something, with your family members. And yeah, I would love to get this video to as many people as possible. My goal right now is to reach millions of men with, of course, my book. I call this a Limitless Protocol. So I want to reach millions of men with what I'm teaching in the Limitless Protocol Black Book. And I just want to help as many guys as possible in the world to achieve their dream life, get away from being stuck and blocked, remove those viruses, download the right information in their brain, and then they get everything that they want and everything that you deserve. All right, so that's it for today. Please let me know how I can help. Comment below, and I'll see you next time.